So today is day 20. Well, today was day 20. It was Tuesday, but now it's Wednesday morning, 3 a.m. But day 20, man, the Diddy trial. And they still got Jane Doe on the stand. And to be honest with you, man, I think we already know who Jane Doe is. You know what I'm saying? It's 50 Cent baby mama. I'm not gonna say her name, but we know who it is. You know what I'm saying? But let's get into the transcript, man. Go from there. You know what I'm saying? Because I heard it was a crazy exchange between the defense, because she's being cross-examined now by Diddy's team. And the lawyer is Tenny Garregas. I probably pronouncing the name wrong. So let's look at the transcript, man. So this is basically like what Diddy being charged with. You know what I'm saying? Racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud or coercion. 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution also, man. So this is basically what it is. Racketeering broadly means engaging in a legal scheme or enterprise, and a charge that falls under the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. According to U.S. Department of Definition, RICO statute is illegally to conspire to violate the laws. So let's get into it today, man. Let me check something right quick. Let me see. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, let's get into it. Okay, that's the judge right there. And one thing about that judge, man, I don't know if it's just me, but it's sometimes I'll be thinking he's a little biased. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my opinion. You know, and sometimes I think, man, he's like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not for Diddy, or you know what I mean. Like I don't have no game in this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, okay, if he's guilty, he's guilty, whatever. If he's not guilty, he's not guilty. Okay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't know this man from a can of paint. You know, but I'm really following the trial, and it's like, you know, whatever he's being charged with, I don't see it 100%. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. Like Diddy is, like I keep saying, man, Diddy is a horrible, horrible guy, and he do need to be in jail. You know what I'm saying? But the charges that they got, he's being charged with, you know what I'm saying? Does he need to be in jail for those that they don't really, I don't really see it yet. You know what I'm saying? But okay, over the weekend, man, they tried to the judge denies a motion for mistrial. And the testimony, before the testimony resumed, the judge tell the court that the motion of mistrial has been denied. Over the weekend, the defense called for a mistrial, arguing that Cassie Ventura and Brianna lied about being dangled over the 17th balcony floor by Diddy in September 2016. Yeah, I remember that because the last person that was on the stand, she said she was being dangled over the balcony, and kind of found out Diddy wasn't even there or whatever. And Cassie and her, they supposed to be friends, that they kind of lied because they had the dates wrong. So the defense is like trying to do another mistrial. This is like the second one they call, if I'm not mistaken. And also the motion to recall traumatic stress expert denied. So a motion to recall Dr. Hughes, a psychologist who spoke early in the trial, speaking about the trauma bonds and between the abuser and the victim, has been denied. So I guess they want to call her to the stand, man, just to get her back on the stand to embarrass her again. You know what I'm saying? Because be honest with you, she never saw Cassie. You know what I'm saying? She gone over her experience, but then again, it's like you never like treated Cassie. You know what I mean? Even though we all can kind of see that there are some traumatic PTSD and all type of stuff going over Cassie just to endure that physical and all those abuses and stuff like that. But then again, it's like this psychologist here, man, she done got on the stand also before in the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case, and she made a fool of herself. You know what I'm saying? But that was denied. So let's get into it, man. Jane returns to the stand. Now she's being crossed by Tenny Garregas. I know I pronounced her name wrong. So let's get into it. Jane wanted to fulfill duties as a girlfriend on a hotel nights and say she still loves Diddy. Yesterday, we learned that Diddy is paying for Jane's rent and also paying for her lawyer. We also discovered that ahead of the trial, she had been speaking to both the defense and the prosecutor before appearing as a witness for the government. Jane confirms when Homeland Security investigation first came to her home, she did not want to have anything to do with them, but was later subpoenaed by the government after Diddy was arrested in September and given immunity to speak in the court. Jane said she did not want to break up with Diddy, and when asked if she felt resentful that she had sex with other men, she said Diddy, excuse me, guys. She said Diddy introduced her to swinging lifestyle, under a lot of emotional pressure. She says, I was hooked from the beginning on the love and affection. I fell in love with him and I didn't understand the terms of the relationship. It was along the lines of love and pressure to do things he desired, and I wanted to fulfill my duties as a girlfriend. When asked if she still loves Diddy, Jane said yes. One thing I noticed also is that Diddy, it's crazy because like Diddy wanted to see his girlfriends have sex with other guys, which is weird to most men, but there are some men who's into that. You know what I'm saying? Seeing their wife or woman sleep with another man. You know what I'm saying? You have guys that really get turned on by that, which is weird. But then again, it's like other people do that. That's their job. I'm not judging, but I'm just saying it is weird. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't even, it's kind of surprised that a lot of people that is billionaire Diddy, we know this music mogul entrepreneur is into this crazy lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? It's wild, right? Let's continue. So Jane describes fantasy talk and wardrobe changes during hotel nights. Talking about performing during hotel night, Jane says she felt like she was the only person who knew what Diddy liked sexually. And when asked if she tried to be sexy for him, answered, I didn't try, I did. She said there were special outfits for some hotel nights with wardrobe initiated by Diddy, including a night on the Turks and Caicos Island. So I guess that's the island right there. Nice water there too. She said she would mostly wear 6-inch heels to perform for Diddy. Jane says sometimes when taking drugs, including ecstasy, she would fantasy talk. She would fantasy talk with the escorts. Give an example: pretending Diddy was away on a plane, and she was looking forward to getting the escort, who she calls an entertainer to herself. Jane also says she enjoyed carrying with Diddy after these marathon events, which were sometimes days long. At one point, she says the moments of love and intimacy with just the two of them at the hotel nights were all enjoyed about them. She said she felt he was trusting her in a vulnerable moment. She also says she would also look at Diddy's phone even when he was with her other women. Jane, what does that have to do with this whole thing? There is a moment of friction when Diddy's defense lawyer asked Jane if she saw her father's child when she was visiting Diddy on the East Coast. Jane responds that what does that have to do with this whole thing? She asked if she made the choice to get on the plane and go to Miami. She said yes. So wow, they bring it Jane's old kid in this. Diddy was larger than life with a big personality, Jane says. Jane described Diddy as being a bright light, calling him confident and strong and very sure of himself with a big personality. She goes on to say he was motivated and encouraging, just larger than life. She says all this was very attractive to her and it helped her overcome the shyness she suffered from when they first met. Jane also admits she struggled with self-esteem previously and still does. We got to remember that Jane Doe, she got with Diddy when Diddy, I think, was dating her friend or something like that. You know what I mean? So again, this whole situation is kind of weird how they really met. You know what I mean? Dissection of Diddy's financial support for Jane. Discussion moves on to financial matters, and Jane says before meeting Diddy, she made around $50,000 as an influencer and claimed around $4,700 in child support. She says also paid her rent. Jane says that over the course of her relationship with Diddy, he wired her around $150,000. Wow. And invested $20,000 in a dress line she launched. When asked by Diddy's lawyer, Tenny Gregors, if she graduated to provide us, Jane said she finds successful men attractive, adding my ideal partner is a partner and a provider. She says her lease on her home had begun in April 2023, and it had been important for her to get something bigger that was also up to Diddy's taste level. She said privacy also started to become an issue, and she thought that by having the house, they could carry out the hotel nights in privacy of their own home. Jane goes on to describe arguing with Diddy later in relationship over him using his payment of rent as a tool to control her by asking, "You need 3 months rent." She said she talked back to him, and he later sent her 20,000 unsolicited, with which she belonged, which she bought really nice furniture. In response, Jane sent a grateful text in which she called Diddy baby the count. The court hears. So Diddy gave her $150,000. Give me guys something in my throat. Sorry about that, guys. So, like I was saying, Diddy gave her $150,000 and $20,000 to invest in her clothing line. So this kind of still goes into like, was this sex trafficking or whatever, or even coercion? You know, and like I said before, man, like um, I'm not really seeing it, but I kind of get where they're going at. I mean, the prosecutors, you know what I mean, and Diddy continue to pay her rent. Even to this day, he continued to pay her rent, and also Diddy's paying her lawyer fees also. You know what I mean? So Diddy's still doing all this while being on trial. So I don't know if the prosecutors. I mean, they done cross examining, but it's like, is it like, well, I still have a stint on it because even though he's still paying her rent and paying for her lawyers, like, do that still mean like he still have some like type of power over her? You know what I'm saying? Let's continue though. Diddy nicknamed Jane Crack Pipe. Diddy nicknamed Jane Crack Pipe. Wow. The court has played a voicemail in which Diddy says he nicknamed Jane Crack Pipe because he had so much fun with her during their trip to the Turks and Caicos Island. When asked to clarify the nickname, Jane said he had an addiction to my text. Jane replies to Diddy's message saying, "Crack pipe is so real for the both of us. It's definitely mutual. I just like everything you said. I am so thankful. I had so much fun. Turks was absolutely incredible. I am so happy." You got to remember, in the prosecutor testimony, the prosecutor, like, Jane Doe was upset because Diddy went to Turks and Caicos with another woman. And allegedly, I think it was Young Miami, you know what I'm saying, that he was dating also, a rapper from City Girls. And now she ended up being flued out to Turks and Caicos also. And they had freak offs and stuff there too. Diddy told Diddy told me he was polygamous. Jane says Jane confirms her relationship with Diddy began in late 2020 when she went with him to get drugs. She says she kept it a secret from the father of her child because he did not have a good relationship with Diddy. Jane says Diddy told her he was polygamous towards the start of the relationship and said she didn't mind, but admits that as the relationship developed and emotions grew deeper, she found it hard to, particularly when Diddy appeared to be in a monogamous relationship with another woman. She agrees that his ability to easily shift his attentions to another girl hurt his feelings, and she wouldn't hold back in expressing her feelings. I'm guessing she meant her feeling. I'm not sure. Jane says, I was very colorful. I would call her a hoe. I would use everything I wanted him to be my man." She said Diddy was also jealous and possessive within the relationship. Diddy's drug use led to green gums and shaking hands, Jane said. Jane said she was aware of Diddy's drug habit and that after just a few dates, she could see he was depressed and had shaky hands. She says that when they were on the plane to Turks and Caicos Island, she could see he wasn't taking care of himself, Jane says. "I felt he had Judas and his gums were graying from drug use and his hands were shaking from consuming alcohol." Wow, Diddy must have really been taking these drugs. Like, this is crazy. And don't get me wrong, like, they was Listen, they would take ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine. Man, it's some other drug that they've been taking, man. Like this is like they've been taking all type of stuff I never even heard of. Jane says she encouraged Diddy to go to rehab because he was overdoing the party. Jane says that while she noticed a strong pattern during the relationship, she wouldn't label it as a drug pattern. She would now sum it up by saying Diddy was a really big party guy, she adds. One Diddy to quit the drugs, she says he previously spoke about ketamine therapy as a way to quit a Xanax habit. Diddy liked the word voyeurism. I use coke, Jane says, as she questions if he was bi-curious. Discussing the swinger lifestyle central to Diddy's case, Jane agrees that he was driven by his desires while she was driven by her love for him. In a bid to understand the relationship, Jane says she discovered the word coco, which she describes as a man being turned on by wanting by wanting by watching his woman have sex with another man. Jane says she says the description was spot on and gave her a better understanding and around Diddy's need for hotel nights. Jane says she was particularly keen to know what was driven Diddy and to find a list of reasons. She says one reason she could you see was for him to receive pleasure, adding some of the other things were that cooks could have by curiosity that they are too scared to do the act themselves. Wow. Okay. Very interesting. By curious that they are too scared to do the act themselves. When asked about voyeurism, Jane says he liked to use the word voyeurism. I use the word cook for myself. Wow, this is very interesting right here. By curiosity that they are too secret to do them act themselves. And see, that's what I said. That's what I was thinking. Because even though this is not my cup of tea, you know what I'm saying? But there are some men that like seeing women have sex with other men and be turned on by it. But what she's saying right there is like he not just like that. He likes seeing the man, like just seeing the man. You know what I'm saying? Seeing the man penis. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he want to see. He gets turned on. It's like he want to see the woman do it, but it's like he want to do it himself. You know what I'm saying? Like he want to mess with the guy. Basically, that's what she's saying. You know what I'm saying? Like he basically want to mess with the guy, but he's scared to act on it himself. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't picture that. You know what I mean? I didn't picture that because, like I say, man, Diddy's a billionaire entrepreneur, and he done dated so many women, so many beautiful women. You know what I mean? So it's like that's why I say a lot of that stuff is very surprising. You know, and that's when I first heard it. I'm like, man, is Diddy? I don't want to say he's gay because he got kids and shit, so he can be bi. So is he bi? Wow, wow. Okay, let's continue. Fuck It Friday was a chance to party really hard, Jane says. Discussing their use of drugs together, Jane says she took ecstasy to help her get through hotel nights and that Diddy would take it to point him in a good mood and when he was agitated and stressed from the day. She describes a tradition they had called Fuck It Friday, which Jane says is when he let loose and wants to party really hard. Jane says the events will release pressure from various things in his personal life, adding, we party big on Fridays. It ain't like they already fucking party. You know what I'm saying? Now they got a name for it, Fuck Fridays. Like, man, y'all was going hard all this time. Every night y'all have freak offs, y'all going hard. You know what I'm saying? Taking all these drugs and stuff. Now y'all got the name for it, Fuck Fridays. Crazy. They got Fuck Fridays and they got hotel nights. Wow. Let's continue. Jane says she was transported drugs for Diddy multiple times. Jane says she carried drugs twice for Diddy and contacted his chief of staff at the time, Christy Cornum. You see, keep in mind, Christy Cornum, she's Diddy's assistant. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if she's going to testify, and I said this before because I'm seeing her name come up a lot in this trial. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing her name really come up a lot in this trial. And I don't know if she's gonna testify, and I don't know if D-Rock gonna testify, Diddy's old security guard, because they know a lot and their name continue to come up in this trial. time. Okay, she says Diddy carried drugs twice for Diddy and contacted his chief of staff at the time, Christina Corm, about how she would pack it in her luggage. While she said she was close to Corm, she resented the fact that Corm was always with Diddy, adding, "It was difficult for our relationship. I believe that she had very strong feelings about me, which influenced a great deal with how Sean treated her." Wow. Diddy was Michael Jordan. Basketball stars' names used for hotel night. Personally, James. Wow. Jane has previously described her part in booking some of the male entertainers or escorts for Diddy's hotel nights, and on occasion says she objected to having sex with certain men, including one who she had smelled. Going through a list of escorts she used with Diddy, she agrees that Don was handsome with blue eyes and Paul was really nice with a warm energy. She agrees that she had a great sexual experience with Paul. She also says the names of basketball stars were used as hotel nights nicknames, calling herself Kobe Bryant. Paul was dubbed Shaq after Shaquille O'Neal, and Diddy was called Michael Jordan. Wow. Oh my goodness, man. She said the collective nickname was the trifecta again after the three basketball stars. Jane described recruiting escorts called Gabriel and Anton after watching them on the pornographic website Blacked and contacted them via Instagram. Jane told us yesterday that Gabriel later attempted to blackmail her and Diddy over a video where she was shot on his phone during a hotel night showing him having sex with her. Wow. So I guess this guy, Gabriel was like, he was like trying to blackmail Diddy and Jane Doe. The code is now bread. Okay. So that's Jane Doe right there. Jane reads out text discussing sex parties in a big boom grand finale. The court has shown text messages between Diddy and Jane from late 2021, around a year after they first began dating. There was more fantasy talk with Jane King to meet up with Diddy and saying she would go to the lingerie shop to buy black matrix underwear to please him. Defense attorney Tenny Gregors asked if she knew the fantasy talk would turn Diddy on. But Jane replies that she did, but that Diddy often only gave her the option to him in a fantasy group sex context rather than a one-on-one. She replies, "Yes, talking about want to see each other, and the option he is him giving me is him and Paul." She says meeting with an escort to please Diddy was her only option, adding, "I wanted to see my lover." She says Diddy would keep returning to the subject of bringing a male escort as a tense, saying it would keep her performing and adding, "It was 2021. I was madly in love. I'm in great spirits. I'm agreeable here." She finishes one message in response to Diddy's suggestion such a meet. "I'm just fine, baby." In later message, she brings up the topic of sex parties and when asked about it, tells the lawyer, "Once Sean was telling me about sex parties and said we should go to one." She says she was giving him options by suggesting it. There's also discussion over which escorts to hire, including Dawn and Gabriel. But Jane reminds Diddy he previously said he wanted to save Gabriel for a grand finale for when the album was done. She calls this a showstopper, big boom, and game over situation. So as we see right here, she says meeting with an escort to please Diddy was her only option, adding, "I wanted to see my lover." So when she would text Diddy that, she says also Diddy would keep returning to the subject of bringing a male escort as a tent, saying it would keep her performing and adding, "It's on 2021 and I was madly in love. I'm in great spirits and agreeable." So basically, she wanted to she also said, but Jane replied that she did, but that Diddy often only gave her the option to him in a fantasy group sex contact rather than one-on-one. So Jane don't want to be one-on-one with Diddy, but like I said, man, the Bob Curious, Diddy wanted to always not this. It seems that Diddy he I don't know if he can't get turned on by just having sex with a woman. It's like he got another guy gotta be there for him to really get turned on because she want to be one-on-one with this guy. You know what I'm saying? This guy that she could tend to agreed to do these freak offs with. You know what I'm saying? And she's madly in love with this guy, so she just wanted to be one on one. But Diddy seemed like he don't want to be one on one with her. You know what I mean? Like he want another person to be there, and not just another woman. He want another guy there. Crazy, right? Let's continue. Jane and defense lawyer lock heads over handbags. Yesterday, during Jane's evidence, we heard that she was upset because there wasn't anything possible to share on social media from her relationship with Diddy. In one message discussed today, Jane is asking Diddy if his home girl is there with him posting on Instagram. Jane said she felt she endured most of the pressure during her time with Diddy, and looking back, could see just a chaotic whirlwind of dark on her own social media accounts, where she said she wasn't proud of doing a relationship. She said she felt Diddy offered beautiful things to the other girls that they could share, and goes on to the shot Diddy in another message asking him if he brought his homegirl a Chanel bag, even though she says she's been fucking your friends in front of your face. Instead of a Chanel bag, Jane said she got trauma. Wow. So Diddy would basically buy the other girls Chanel bags, and she said she got trauma. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy and sad at the same time. You know what I'm saying? A tense discussion with attorney for Borregas ensures with the defense attorney asking, "Did you get a Van Cleef necklace?" Mason Van Cleef from Arpos is a French luxury jeweler brand costing between 3,000 and 60,000. Wow. It's followed by the question, "What is a Bottega bag?" Jane responds, "I'm sure you have one." Wow. She telling the lawyer, "I'm sure you have one." Wow. So this is Diddy team right here. Diddy's lawyers right here, man. So I'm guessing this is Tini Guegas right here. Guegas says, "How much?" She says, "How much?" Guegas asks, says, "How much do Bottega bags run to?" And Jane replies, "How much does my body cost?" Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Jane Doe said, "How much my body costs?" Oh my goodness. The fashion and luxury woven leather bags don't come cheap, costing between 2,000 and 9,000 each. Wow, that's crazy. So Jane said, "How much my body costs?" So what that telling me is that her body's for sale. I mean, me now, in my opinion, she's saying that how much my body costs. It's like, okay, what are you trying to say? Like, you telling me your body's paid for, even though, yo, that's a crazy statement right there. That's a crazy answer that she said that. Wow. Court finished. Okay, so court is over. Wow. That's crazy. So tomorrow, man, she's going to be on stand tomorrow also. Well, I mean, it's Wednesday morning now, but she's going to be on stand today. It's not going. I think court starts around like 1 o'clock. I don't know why it starts so late though. I'm not sure why it's court starting at 1 p.m. instead of like 9. I'm not sure about that. Um, we're gonna see, man. But let me see if I can pull up somebody that was in court. Lauren Carlin, man, I'll be following her on Twitter and stuff like that. She's pretty good at she bees in court. There's a few other people that I follow that bees in court, like Amon Wiggins, other people too. Let me see if I can pull it up right quick.
U.S. versus Sean Combs, day 20, afternoon update. I'm doing my update right here at the courthouse because we ended a little early, but I have to just right off the bat tell you about a very hostile moment with Jane and Tenny Garagos, and it was pretty wild. I mean, there were gasps from the jury and there were gasps in the gallery, and it stemmed from a text exchange between Diddy and Jane. And Jane was upset because Diddy had been texting her about, she thought he was texting her because he missed her and he was bringing up two of the escorts that they had hotel sessions with. And then she sees a social media post of Diddy and a girl that he's with, spending quality time with. And I guess he also bought this girl a Chanel bag and she posted it. And Tenny's reading the text message that Jane sent him, and it's something along the lines about like, you just want to use me for the hotel stuff while you're spending quality time, and like you got her a Chanel bag, lol, this shit's crazy, all this stuff. And Tenny's like, so, I mean, you didn't get a Chanel bag. And Jane goes, no, I only got trauma. And she said, but you got a Bottega bag, because she had testified that he bought her a Bottega bag. And she said, but you got a Bottega bag and a Van Cleef. How much is a Bottega bag? And Jane says, how much is my body? And then at one point before that, and I skipped over this, but at one point before that, Tenny said, what is a Bottega bag? And she said, you probably have one. That's what Jane said. And so after this, and she talked about the price, and she's like, how much? And Jane said a Bottega bag is $2,000, and then she's like, how much is a Chanel bag? And she's like, I don't know. And right before that, the judge kind of scolded Jane to just answer the questions, and then Jane was like, can we take a break? And then when we got back from the break, Jane actually apologized, and she just said, I apologize. And also, when we got back from the break, the judge told the jury that we were going to end early, and one of the jurors goes, yay. But okay, so essentially the cross this afternoon, I actually was very excited to leave, because I would say 90% of the afternoon was spent on explicit text messages. And when I say explicit, I mean I'm an adult, I can handle it. These were very explicit, and Jane had to read most of them. So, and I think that was to sort of show that she would text Diddy that she was having fantasies about certain escorts. And, she would kind of explain herself and say, yeah, well, I was kind of placating, etc. But nevertheless, we did hear about texts that she sent, saying that these escorts turned her on and she was thinking about them, etc., etc. At another point, Tenny kind of brought up, you said like you hadn't really done anything in the 3 years that you were with Diddy, and then she kind of brought up that you had your dress line business, you also had a swimsuit business, you got to live in this beautiful house, kind of saying, your apartment before was X many square feet, and now this house is double. You can raise your child in this. And she even brought up the fact that her dress line business was profitable. So she's like, in 3 years, you didn't really do nothing. You did do stuff. And Jane kind of said, well, it's here nor there, but I feel like I could have done a lot more, etc. Let me see what else. There was also just text messages between Jane and Diddy where she says, I wish you were here so we could play our videos, meaning the videos they recorded in the different hotel rooms. And then she showed us 2 instances of text messages where Diddy essentially says to Jane, and we saw kind of the same thing with Cassie, like, we don't have to do any more of these hotel nights, or debauchery they called it. It can be just us. And okay, so then we saw this one text thread, again, more dirty text, but Jane tells Diddy that she feels sexiest when she's intoxicated off of wine. And Diddy responds, oh, I didn't know that. And they're kind of talking about hotel nights and what makes her feel the sexiest. And he says, I didn't know that. You don't have to do Molly. And he also says something like, we don't have to get crazy for the rest of the year. And Jane says something like, it's okay with me, meaning like, I don't mind necessarily getting crazy. That's fine. And
So in that instance right there, that's kind of a good question that the defense lawyer asked her. You know what I mean? That Diddy said, we don't have to take these Molly or whatever. And she says, okay. So he really wasn't forcing her to take any drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, they took a lot of drugs. So in the instance right here, I'm guessing they trying to show the jury that, listen, she kind of did most of the stuff on her own. She did most of the stuff willingly. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of like interesting right there.
And Diddy says, what do you mean? And Jane testified that she took that whole thing as like an angry undertone when he said, we don't have to go crazy for a year, almost kind of like a test. And that's my words, not hers. But that's how I kind of translated this. And Jane says, after he says, what do you mean? She said, I love that we have this freedom with one another. And Diddy says, you don't think I can do it, meaning not have a hotel night. And she says, I just know that there will be debauchery before the end of the year. I don't mind it. I just want some romance time. And Diddy says, I'm going to make you beg for debauchery. And then she gives like a laughing face and says, okay, let's try it, but I love it all with you. And then Diddy texts back, I love the times that it's just me and you. And then again, we ended with just more text messages about hotel nights. And that was when she kind of said, I want him to play this video. And yeah, overall, it was just a day. It was an afternoon as well. So tomorrow, again, I mentioned there will be a short day. So I'll probably just do one update in the afternoon. But yeah, I think yeah.
So like I say, court today, like I say, man, right now it's like 4:10 a.m. So court today is not going to be at 9. It's going to be at 1. So I don't know if it's going to be 1 to 3, maybe 1 to 5. So it's going to be a short day tomorrow. That might mean Jane Doe going to be on the stand tomorrow and Thursday morning. You know what I mean? Since tomorrow's going to be short. But man, listen, she's this Jane Doe. We already know who she is. But anyway, in my opinion, man, like I say, this girl is like she just loved Diddy. You know what I mean? She really loved this guy. Almost the same situation with Cassie, besides a lot of abuse. But Diddy did abuse this woman here, but he didn't abuse her more than he abused Cassie. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the text message stuff like that, man, she really wanted to please Diddy. She was also jealous because Diddy was dating other women. But going in a relationship, Diddy already told her that he dates other women. So she's being jealous shouldn't be really that concerning. You know what I'm saying? But it's a woman, so a woman has emotions. So of course she's gonna be jealous, even though she says she's not. So I don't know, man. We're gonna see what's gonna happen tomorrow, well today, and go from there.